All right, how's everybody doing? Today we're here with Tulsa Simpson. Tulsa is a peer of mine, a good friend of mine, training partner. He is the founder and owner of Groundstone BJJ in Sneads Ferry, North Carolina. When I was stationed here at Camp Lejeune a while ago, Tulsa, opened his doors and opened up for me to train. I was a purple belt at the time. I trained with him, purple belt, brown belt, for a while, and then we happened to be the same with the same affiliation for our black belts. So Fredson, both Fredson Paschal black belts. Shout out to Professor Fredson. Today we're here to talk about his the process of him opening his school here in Sneads Ferry, North Carolina, while on active duty. Kind of juggling two different things. So just want to talk about the process of starting jiu-jitsu, opening a school while you're on active duty, moving from spot to spot as it grew, and then now, fully retired, running the school. So first question is Tulsa, what brought you to jiu-jitsu? What made you start training jiu-jitsu?
Oh man! First of all, thank you for
Oh,
doing
thanks,
this,
man.
and thanks for being here for today and doing the seminar and stuff. Appreciate it. What really brought me to jiu-jitsu was the Marine Corps, and growing up, I started with Taekwondo, doing your basic kids classes, things like that. So, and I stuck with that for a long time. I moved to Okinawa, and I had been training martial arts pretty much my whole life, on and off. Boxing, I really found a huge passion in boxing. Um, but really, when I moved to Okinawa, I thought I wanted to capitalize on the opportunity of being in Okinawa. Let's learn some real roots of karate and things like that. So I started doing that, and I was actually on a deployment in the Philippines when one of my Marines was like, "Oh, you should try jujitsu." I was like, I don't know about that. I'm a striking guy, and it just so happened we got back from our deployment. I went to my first class with Professor Ivan Sakamoto, who is also a black belt under Fredson, his first black belt, and his brother. And I did my first class, and immediately I just got hooked.
Hooked, yeah.
And then it was 10 days later. I was in my first tournament. I didn't even have a gi yet.
Oh, wow.
So I just started, really kind of dove in. It just became an addiction for me. Yeah, that was the biggest thing. And grappling, just in a whole, through Marine Corps martial arts and teaching Marine Corps martial arts and things like that, and then jiu-jitsu just kind of filled a huge gap that I had.
Nice, nice. So let's talk about starting the business on active duty. So in itself, you already kind of alluded to the process, if you will, but starting a business itself, in ideal conditions when that's your main focus and you have the time to invest, it's already hard enough. So talk about starting. I remember the corner spot over across the street. That's now a laundromat,
Right.
but that was a first spot. But can you talk about like the process of opening that up and what motivated you to do that as well too? So.
Yeah. So first came the motivation, really. So when I came back from Okinawa, obviously I didn't really have a school. I didn't have affiliation when I got here. Um, Came back to Sneads Ferry. I was here on base, so I did what I thought I could do, which was just teach on base and
Yeah.
teach Marines that didn't
Yep.
know anything. So I started doing that, and I had a huge passion already in martial arts and then in teaching martial arts, and I loved teaching. Um, and I thought that I was pretty well at breaking things down and stuff like that. Well, enter Professor Fredson, and here I was a blue belt, a pretty fresh blue belt, um, and I started chatting with him a lot through Yvonne, and in I think it was 2015, I had Professor Fredson out for the first time here in North Carolina. He stayed with me for like a week. Um, we just really clicked and had a great relationship from that point on. Um, in the same time, he was doing a seminar, and he promoted me to purple belt at the time. And then the motivation came first of he was like, "Why don't you start a school?" And I was like, I just got promoted to purple belt 2 days ago. You want me to start a school?" And but there was nothing around. There were no affiliations. I had to drive 30 to 40 minutes each direction, which doesn't sound far, but when you're on active duty, it's hard. You're getting off work at whatever time, and then you got to travel to a school. So I seen a need in this area, in this community that was growing. And Sneads Ferry, North Carolina, isn't even considered a city,
Yeah.
but the local population is huge. And so I took his advice. It took me about 2 years to kind of get up both the courage and everything else, and the kind of know-how to open a school. And it's funny because some of my original students that are still with us when we started the new place, we call it like a reverse Daisy Fresh, right? It started out as a jiu-jitsu gym and became a laundromat.
Yeah.
But we found real quick that once we opened, I was happy with. I thought if I could have 10 kids and 10 adults, like that's perfect.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on creating this big school. Like I really didn't have maybe not even 1,000 square feet of mat space. I just wanted to share jujitsu.
Yeah.
And it just grew. The community really loved what we were doing, still love what we're doing, and we grew in 7 months from that original reverse Daisy Fresh place to getting
couple units down.
a couple units down in a double space. And then eventually the opportunity arose, and we moved right across the street. We ended up buying this property, and we have over 2,100 square foot of mat space now, and it's crazy. And then the even crazier part is we see a need now in the Sneads Ferry, Topsail, Surf City area, even moving down towards Wilmington, and we're going to be opening a second location in Surf City. So there's a huge need. It never started that way. It just started with like I love jiu-jitsu. I love teaching jiu-jitsu and seeing other people's journey. And the flip side was I was leaving the Marine Corps during the day, taking off my camis, coming in the back door of the gym, putting on a gi and stepping out on the mats, and then going all the way until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and then going home. And luckily it wasn't a full schedule, but yeah, it was kind of wild. And just to experience the growth and how everybody received it was really what drove me to continue doing it. And then I was blessed to be able to retire and grow the gym and grow the academy. So
Nice. So did you know? I guess did you know you wanted to like set roots here in Sneads Ferry, or did the gym kind of draw you to like setting roots here? Being from the, is it technically the Midwest? Being from Kansas?
Midwest. Originally from Kansas, right outside of Kansas City. Lawrence, Kansas is my home, which is just a small college town.
So most people retire and like go back to home, but you retired and set roots here, man.
Yeah, it was. I think it was definitely the gym. It was definitely the academy and the community as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, this place, kind of the small town feel. Sneads Ferry's barely even on the map, but the small town feel, and also I still get to have that same type of camaraderie with Marines that I had while I was active duty, because the majority, not all of my students, but the majority of the students in the academy are active duty.
Yeah.
So, we still talk about Marine Corps things and stuff like that. So that's great. Definitely my roots got set when Groundstone kind of got set into the community.
Yeah. So I know the history, but can you talk about the history of the name Groundstone? So it's a cool history that I don't think a lot of people know about. So.
Yeah, so a lot of people actually ask, like, what is Groundstone? What does it mean? Where's it from?
Yeah.
A lot of questions like that. And you've been with me for we've been doing this together for so long. But yeah, so a groundstone is by definition basically a old caveman days, like it's a stone that the cavemen used to sharpen their tools on. It could be a flat piece of marble, whatever, granite, whatever they could find that was harder than whatever they were trying to sharpen. Yeah. So if they were sharpening an axe, they would sharpen it there. So whatever they were sharpening the tools on. So I just did a play on words. It really sounded good to me. I used to think like grindhouse, grindstone, and I was like groundstone, a little play on words with ground, and and then groundstone just it fit because the mats are groundstone. Granted, they're not hard, but this is where we come and we sharpen our tools. and it was definitely fitting. And I think the name has kind of resonated with a lot of people in that, and even people that don't know what it is, they're just like, "Oh, Groundstone's a cool name," you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. So Professor Kelly kind of talked about the transition from active to retired and running the business. He also talked about expanding. What was the motivation to expand down to Topsail? So about to open a new spot down in Topsail as well too. What was the motivation to expand down there as well?
I think um, I think the community, really like my the academy never really opened for me personally. The academy opened in the beginning just because I wanted to share what I was passionate about, what I was falling in love with. And then when I seen so many other people do the same thing, and really, there are people that schedule their lives around going to jiu-jitsu classes. It's crazy. Um, and kids, I've seen kids. I have kids that have been with me for 4 years. And being in a transient area, it it's hard sometimes because you see people that you invest so much time in, and then they go. Um, but to see the community build and build and build around what we're doing is really the kind of motivation. And we wanted to reach out and do what we're doing here and put it somewhere else. And I've always seen that area, a little farther down south. Not Wilmington is a little too far away, and they have several schools down there. But I always thought like Surf City, that's a cool location. It's kind of midway, and it's a little far from us, but we know that community needs something as well. There's several housing communities down there. There's several. I think there's another almost 300 apartments going up in that area.
Oh, wow.
So there's a huge need for something in that area, and not like a tourist type location. And that's the thing is jiu-jitsu is not seasonal.
No,
I think that's one thing that people, we get a lot of people that ask that, like, what are your seasons? You do this for 3 months or 6 months, and then no, we're not seasonal. Like, we have classes.
Life,
it's our life. So I think that's great because a lot of stuff in this area has become seasonal.
Yeah.
So what do people do when it's kind of the off season?
For other sports.
For sports and things like that. So and the Surf City area is great. And, even my kids do a lot of the Surf City Community Center type stuff.
Yeah.
But what do we do when that's not happening?
Yeah.
And I think that was it was a need, and we're like, okay, we can meet this need. We've grown so much here that we can start to expand and move down there. Yeah. So it's really all about the community, and my wife Bianca and I, we try to kind of see what the community needs. We've done stuff with the high schools, theater programs, things like that. We try to see what the community needs.
You guys were doing the kids' summer program at one point too, right?
Yeah. That's, talk about busy.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a big thing. And COVID, right? So COVID messed a lot of things up in the community, and people were worried about kids going to school and all this stuff. And we started a remote learning program. My wife had a remote learning program that she did on the mats. So kids would come in the mornings, and she would help them with their homework. She wasn't teaching, but she was, they were doing reinforcing, and kids were all over the mats, and we got the little tables to set out on the mats and all that stuff. So really it's just community needs, man. Nice. And that's really what has forced us. I don't want to say, not really forced us, but it has really driven
assisted
us.
and driven
you to that's what's really done.
Let's talk about competition. So some gym owners, when it is, I don't think it's intentional, but when you open up a gym, your focus is, your students, teaching your students, maintaining a level of proficiency inside your gym, and then running the gym. But you still, somehow, remain pretty active on the competitive scene. Just competing, a couple of weeks ago in Kansas, competing a couple of weeks before that in North Carolina. So talk about like the balance of running the school and competing.
Well, I think, and not against any other school owners or black belts that don't compete, but I feel like in my academy, this is my own personal feelings, is I feel like if I'm going to run an academy and I have people competing that are under me, that I need to kind of set that example. And maybe that's the Marine in me, right? Maybe that's that leader in me that says like, okay, if you're going to do this, I'm not going to have you do something that I'm not doing myself. So I think that really drives me. I know the academy drives me more than anything else. Like, would I love to be a world champion? Absolutely. But would I love to create a world champion? Yes.
100%,
That would, I would love to see, a world champion with the Groundstone rash guard or Groundstone patch on their gi. Like, that would be amazing to me. If it's me, I mean, that would be great. But but yeah, I think that's it. Like, I love competing. I think just having a competitive edge is just by our nature as Marines, and just to be able to fulfill that in a little, some jiu-jitsu competition. I'm going again in December, and we're taking, seems like half the academy is going to compete. So it's awesome. And then when your students, whether kids or adults, when they see you compete, that's like super motivation. They're like, oh yeah, coach is doing it, I can do it.
Got it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I
think
think
there can be some pressure in competing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's really crazy because you just talked about Kansas City, and I went, flew out to Kansas City, and that was great. I did the pro event, which is so much different because I didn't have my team. I didn't. All of my competitions since I've opened Groundstone has had some kind of core team with me that goes. My wife was there and she cornered me, but it was way different because I didn't have that core of Groundstone. So I got to compete in front of my blood family, but I didn't get to compete in front of my jiu-jitsu family. So it was way different, and there's definitely something to be said about that.
For sure. So last question, I always like closing with the process. So throughout the process of training jiu-jitsu, opening a school, training other students, what has been the most rewarding or memorable part of the process?
Ooh, meeting guys like you. Yeah, definitely. I think there's something about jiu-jitsu that brings people together, and we know as Marines, but if anybody's watching that doesn't understand the camaraderie of the Marine Corps and how close-knit we are, they definitely understand the community of how close-knit jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you can go anywhere in the world and see a dude with cauliflower ear and you're like, and it's the same thing. When a guy says like, I was, I'm a Marine, or you see an eagle over an anchor tattoo somewhere, you're like, and it's kind of that same thing of camaraderie. It's the closest to camaraderie that I've ever seen in another community outside of the Marine Corps. But not only that, like, just meeting really, really awesome people. Like the people that we meet on a daily basis, you never know who's going to walk through the doors. For sure, especially when you have an academy that's in an area that is transient. Anybody can come in at any time, and then you never know. You get some guy off the street, but they could be like
awesome jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, this dude. And it's so jiu-jitsu is very humbling. And I think that helps. And I think fighters as a whole, very, very humbling. And jiu-jitsu brought me to meet Professor Fredson, who has been huge in my life. Both of us, like a huge mentor. Not just in jiu-jitsu, but he's a great, great guy.
Just in life,
Yeah. And then having got like I said, like guys like you, like meeting you.
Thanks, man.
Through jiu-jitsu, like we didn't meet through the Marine Corps. We didn't meet in camis. We met in gis, right? And just doing that, and then seeing like just the growth of both of us, and like moving forward from purple to brown to black, and then what we're doing, and that is, I think even if you take the mat away, I still love that part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just the community, man.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. So if you're in the Jacksonville, North Carolina, Sneads Ferry, Wilmington, North Carolina, stop in the Groundstone headquarters here in Sneads Ferry,
right.
Or early part of next year, right?
Yeah, we're hoping January, no later than February.
So January, February 2023. If you're in the Wilmington, Topsail area, you can drop into the B team.
That's right.
Groundstone B team. Well, Tulsa, thanks again, man. Thanks for inviting me for the seminar.
Absolutely.
And thanks for coming on for the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.